Welcome, everybody, to another show, The Paranormal Rangers. All three of us are here this week. Nice to have you guys back on. How's everybody doing?
Oh, it's good to be here. I just got back to town. Just so everybody out there knows, some of us live way out, and it's a half hour for me to drive into the nearest town and a half hour back again, so 60-mile round trip. I had to take I've been weeding, so I took about 4 or 5 bags of weeds to the dump and just got back in time to get on.
Good job. Nice to have you back on here. Hey. What about you, Stan?
Oh, it's business as usual. Reviewing some written manuscripts and things like that. Everything's good.
For your next book?
Not for my book, for somebody else's book.
Oh, that's nice. I love it when people can trust you to read their manuscripts.
Oh, yeah. It's really good.
Well, as for us over here in Salt Lake City, we've been hearing the news of what's been going on. We had that on our last show to recap a little bit what had gone on, the loss of a prominent figure out in the community. They caught the individual and they are indicting him for possibly in the moment the chair death penalty. we still have that alive here in Utah, so it's been interesting to follow the news piece, but everything's going well, and you can feel the temperatures dropping over here, so I'm sure in your part of the world too. Are you feeling the fall?
Early in the morning, yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit, not too much yet. Still up in the 90s here.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we're in the 70s over here. The high today is 77. Can you believe that? So we're feeling the pinch of the fall weather coming in. Well, welcome everybody to the show. Today we're going to pick up where we were supposed to have picked up last week. We're going to do thought-provoking insights to UAPs and the phenomena. And, to start off, there's a new reclassification of UAPs for the audience who don't understand what is, unidentified aerial phenomena. And that used to be called UFOs. So there's a new classification for that for those of you who are wondering what those UAPs are. Have you lately, guys, had any sightings or anything particular unusual happen to you?
For me, not really. There's an occasional sighting of something abnormal in the sky, but I think I speak for me and John in this. When you've seen as many of these objects and things like that are out of the ordinary, it don't draw a whole lot of attention, not for very long. I guess you just, for me, speaking for me, I think, after a while you kind of get used to these things and that they're there. It's we don't need Congress or the U.S. government or any other government telling us these things exist. They do exist, and they're in our skies every single day, every single night, all the time. And so for me, it's just an everyday thing.
Yeah, for me, I didn't go looking for anything. My camera in my truck is up and running, both front and back. So I haven't really seen any UFOs, and I still call them UFOs, just to be clear. UAP was something that was designated by our government. Mm-hmm. The reason I think they did that is that UFO carries such a stigma with it that, oh, you're crazy, you're Looney Tunes, Mm-hmm. because they ridiculed it for years and years and years. The official government stance was just ridicule it. And then the government got caught looking into it themselves. And so they had to come up with something that didn't sound like they were nuts. So they had to say, this is just my commentary. But they had to say, oh, we'll call it UAP. That sounds much more scientific. And,
yeah, I agree.
So I tend to prefer UFO. But over the weekend, my daughter, she does professional photography. And she wanted to go out and take some night shots because the moon wasn't going to be up until about 9:30, 10 o'clock. So we went out in the middle of the boondocks where there's no lights. And she set up her tripod and she was taking 30-minute time exposures, getting the Milky Way galaxy in the picture. Mm-hmm. And as she was doing that, I was, of course, out with my PVS 7s, night vision equipment. And I was looking around and I started seeing lights moving around on the western horizon. And as I watched, I counted as many as 9 or 10 lights all heading in different directions, kind of angling up into the sky. Now, from my location, I plotted an azimuth and found out that these were exactly due west. So it would have put it somewhere over the Grand Canyon. And as she actually took her camera and zeroed in on it, enlarged it, used a telephoto lens, and she was able to get 30-second time exposure photographs of these lights as they would get brighter and then they dim and then they get bright again. And we counted as many as 15 tracks of lights. And these show up almost on a nightly basis up in this area in northern Arizona. So, we went out, as the officers in Cantu used to put it, we went out and watched the submarine races. They'd call it the submarine races because they'd come up off of the horizon, dance around up there for a while, and then go back down again. And so the officers, after about midnight, if there was nothing to do in town, they'd go just outside of town and sit and watch the light show.
I love it. But, it's really interesting. I think there are solstice moments in the sky that I got a text from a friend. I had recently been up in the Uinta Basin, and it was more of a personal trip that I went to, and we were camping. And one of these individuals that was with us had texted me, "Holy moly, you should see what the sky's doing up here in the Uinta Basin. I'm seeing all kinds of stuff flying around and floating in the sky tonight." And I was like, darn it, why couldn't that happen while I was there? And so it's like everybody else's accounts are coming in. John and you and I just ended up having an interview with the individual who had caught something on a camera. And at some point, I would like this individual to come on our show and share that story because it's under investigation right now between us. And what an interesting set of experiences. And I'd like to talk about that because we're talking about a phenomena. People put things out there to their wildlife cameras out there to look at what's coming into their camps. But mostly a lot of people are starting to catch stuff on their cameras outside their homes. So how do you feel about that, guys?
Today, everybody has cameras everywhere.
Right.
John talked about his vehicle cameras. You've got Ring cameras. People have got, wildlife cameras. You have digital cameras everywhere. Plus everybody carries a cell phone with them. So you've got cameras everywhere. People are capturing today a lot of different phenomena, that can be examined and analyzed and looked at. And I think we're living in an age where we've got cameras, everywhere. I mean, today there is the issue. People are concerned about the traffic cameras that are using facial recognition software, and cameras at the airport where they're scanning your face and your body, and but it's a sign of our times where we're at today. You just have them everywhere.
There's positive and negative to that phenomena. I call that a phenomena because we didn't expect in our lifetime that we'd ever see that kind of action going on in our world. But I mean, case in point, they caught the individual who had committed that crime last week as having the cameras there. So there is a positive note there. But what's so interesting about this phenomena that we talk about, the ET kind, it still eludes us. And it's pixelated, or the pictures don't come clear, and yet there's something there. It's just that we can't see it very clear. It still eludes us to this day, even with all the technology we have around. Any thoughts on that?
The technology, the technology has improved in some ways. However, the technology for photography equipment, when you used to use a 35 millimeter or even a medium format camera, like a 180,
Mm-hmm.
you got a lot of detail in distance shots that you could blow up. Now, with our modern cameras, they work on pixels. And when you increase magnification, things tend to get pixelated and you lose detail the further out you go, or the more you blow it up. So we're not really getting the same detail that we got with film cameras before. And in answer to Rainbow Food Rocks, he mentioned that there was a part of the Grand Canyon that planes can no longer fly over. There's actually a historical reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the 60s, there was an incident that occurred. Airlines used to fly over the Grand Canyon and show off the Grand Canyon to people, and they'd be able to look out the windows and ooh and ah. And at some point, two planes collided over the Grand Canyon, two passenger planes. And of course, a tremendous loss of life. And after that, they actually formed the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, that we know today, as a result of that accident. And so they made it off limits for planes to fly over the Grand Canyon to sightsee, and the lanes of travel don't go over the Grand Canyon anymore. So, it's not a military thing that it was sectioned off that way. It was for airline safety.
Yeah, G.E. Kincaid's story of finding the Egyptian caves there, and they made that kind of a rural legend, you know what I mean, about J.W. Kincaid going there and finding the giants and the Egyptian caves. But thanks for clarifying that, John, because I didn't know that about the airlines and the loss of passengers and two colliding planes. That makes sense.
So yeah, I'm just full of historical useless information. It just comes to the surface every now and then, and I know it drives my daughter crazy. So,
well, that urban legend of Kincaid. What are your thoughts about the Grand Canyon? That's an interesting conspiracy story.
I know exactly where that place is.
Do you?
It was pointed in a Park Service trip that I went on for 15 days in the canyon on the little rubber boats with the oars.
Yeah.
They pointed out where that was. And it's about like 600 feet up, 400 feet down in the middle of the cliff. And to get to it, boy, you'd have to have climbing gear to reach it. you know, we just looked up there and they said, do you know what's up there? And everybody looked and says no. And they told us nothing but fear is up there. So pretty dangerous place to try to get into. So naturally it has some safeguards. There are urban stories about that they have sensors on it that if you go up there, the military will pop out of the bushes and stop you, but I don't think so.
So there was no main mention of that conspiracy story of the caves, Kincaid's caves?
Well, they showed us where the caves supposedly exist.
Supposedly.
Yeah, and the face of that cliff is 900 vertical feet.
So it's a flat-faced cave facade.
So yeah, I don't think you could, and you can't even get a drone in there because drones are not allowed to fly in the canyon.
That's interesting. That's one of the things that we can get provoking insights is getting what's truth, what's conspiracy. I mean, these are thought-provoking insights for you to even talk about the reason why in the 60s, 2 colliding planes.
Yeah, it was, and they used to do that all the time. They'd fly over there. This is when our airplanes are still prop driven. So that tells you how long ago it was.
Yeah,
and
I can imagine the beauty of it all. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you were, in the plane flying pretty slow back then. And
well, I find it interesting that Rainbow says, actually, I was there, hired to film. Oh, what could he tell us as part of our insights into the phenomena? That's a good question. Let's see if there's any response.
Yeah, it is on Navajo land. We have the land from the middle of the river out toward the end, and from the Salt Trail all the way where the Little Colorado comes in, all the way up to Jackass Canyon, and all the way up to the dam. We have half the river, and that side is Navajo.
I got a phone call yesterday. It was really interesting. A friend of mine, her husband had appeared on an episode of the first season of Skinwalker Ranch, and they replayed it. Somebody's trying to debunk the film series, and they showed him, and it was supposed to be somebody else. And at the time when I was there, we allowed the wife to come on, and she says, I don't know if I believe in this phenomenon. I felt nothing when I was on the ranch. Some people are more sensitive, and then others don't. They're skeptical. And they've lived in that area all of their lives, and they said they've never had any of the phenomena occur. Now, that's a different twist on what we're talking about today is how do you answer those questions to somebody who doesn't believe?
Does this mean you're a canary?
Yeah.
There's been times when John and I have been out to ruin sites.
Yeah.
And I would be standing within 2 feet of somebody else that's there with us. And I would hear sounds and voices and things clear as anybody just standing there saying something to me. And somebody else that's right there wouldn't even hear it or pick up on these kind of things. And then the same in some of the different paranormal investigations I've done. You could have people side by side, and one person can hear and see things that others don't even register with, So it's kind of odd. I tend to think, like, when it comes to UAPs and UFOs, that according to friends of John and I, people like Robert Salas and stuff that we've talked to, that our skies are filled with different phenomena, orbs and craft, and every single day. And I think some people can see some of these things. I think it depends on where a lot of different factors, where it's coming from, and the type of object, and a lot of time of day, a lot of different things. But I think there is a lot out there. We just, our spectrum in which our sight operates within is very narrow, actually. And so a lot of that we can't see with the naked eye. But just like what John mentioned with the night vision equipment, you break out a pair of night vision goggles and look to our skies, and damn, you can see a hell of a lot of things that you can't see with just the naked eye. So
yeah, I had an experience on Blind Frog Ranch. We were up in that area, and myself, Dr. Segala, and another young lady were there, and we were right by the pond, when we were able to go on. And all of a sudden, everything around us, I felt like I was inside of a tunnel. Everything shut down, the noise, you couldn't hear the water dripping, nothing. And it was like you're in this little cover bubble, and it was completely deafening sound silence. And I caught myself, I think it was last night, watching an episode on the Y-Files. You guys probably have heard about that show. And they were talking about time travel and going, crossing the lines into another dimension. And I'll never forget the look on Dr. Segala's face when he looked at me and he goes, "What is going on?" And because he, a scientist, wants to prove whatever the phenomena is, and he goes, "What's going on?" I just remembered the look on his face, and him trying to keep his composure. As three of us were having this experience, and then all of a sudden we came out of it. And I have often wondered, was I in a time zone? Were we in a time zone together? Thoughts?
When I was out with Rainbow Food Rocks this couple of weeks ago, and we went to Canyon de Chelly, we were out at the overlook at Spider Rock. And at one moment when we're there, it's just devoid of any audio sounds. It's just like you're in a vacuum. It's so eerily quiet. But I've also witnessed that same kind of thing. That's naturally occurring, but at that location. But there's been times I was out on Bigfoot cases, out in the forest and stuff, and it would be the same. It would have that same effect where no sounds of insects or wildlife or
exactly
anything, to the point that you're going, my ears, what's going on? And it's a strange feeling, but it's sometimes you'll run into that kind of thing.
Well, it sounds like, it feels like you're in the sound studio, and there's no
exactly
and that happened another time. I was with the same young lady, and we went during the winter just to see if we what we would experience, and we experienced the exact same thing. But what was really interesting is I swore I heard the voice of Bigfoot. It was just that really unusual sound. It almost sounded like a ailing moose, and there's no moose in that area. And she couldn't hear it, and I could. And she goes, "The only thing I can't hear are the birds." There were birds. And so she was having a different experience away from my experience, but I could hear this very distinct voice. So are we interdimensionally been taken? And having these different experiences? I don't know. Something to think about.
Yeah, sometimes it does happen that way. I used to, when I was having all kinds of UFO sightings on a really regular basis before I got my dash cam in. I was seeing so many things, and there was so many weird stuff going on that when I got my dash cam, that all went away. But at the same time, you know, when you go home and you're trying to sleep and the neighbor's dogs are barking,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, I wish I could just go out there and shut them up, you know, especially, you know, if they're hound dogs or something, and you hear them, woo, you know, and they do that for a long, long time. Well, after I was having all these UFO experiences and everything would get quiet, then I would go, okay, something's out there, something's happening. And believe it or not, now I appreciate hearing the dogs outside, because I know that there's nothing else out there, because when it gets quiet, and it all has to do, all of this has to do again with frequencies.
Yes.
We are like a radio that can tune in on frequencies. And some of us have a wider band than other people. It can be developed, you know, just like any skill set. You can develop it and exercise it until it really, really works for you. For me, I think early on, I said, I don't want to do that. And I kind of resisted, you know, doing anything like that. So, you know, I can be standing right next to Stan and he'll say, did you hear that? And I said, no, I didn't hear anything.
No, I didn't want to hear.
I don't want to hear those cheaties, you know, making noise out there and coming after me. So
I got dog ears. I can walk into Walmart or someplace and the ballast and the lights, dang, it really bugs my ears, man. Someplace before we go. It just, yeah.
Maybe
and
some of us are tuned into the frequency. Yeah.
Another aspect of that is I have high frequency hearing loss in both my ears.
Yeah.
More on my left ear. When we back in 1980, we were being trained in firearms at the police academy for 6 months, and back then they had this idea that if you fired a gun and you had hearing protection, in the real world, if you fired a gun, it would startle you and you might not hit your target. So the thought back then was you should practice without your hearing protection. And that's how we practice at the police academy. So because of the way I shoot, my left ear is more toward the pistol, and we were firing 357 Magnums. So, I've got hearing loss, and the tribe ended up including in its, what did they call that? The package, the insurance package for 1 year, one-time cost of $2,000 for a hearing aid. And the hearing aids back then were like $2,500 for complete in the canal hearing aid. So I got one, and I still wear one to this day. So now I got one in both ears.
Well, it helps to probably hear clearer.
Those old wheel guns, when you would fire them, you had to realize there's space in between the cylinder and the barrel, you know, so you're getting that huge,
the repercussions.
It's really loud.
The sound would blow right back at you.
Loud, very damaging.
Yeah, I can imagine. Hey guys, I've got a story about UAPs and a phenomena. So I may have told this story before. I was home in the kitchen and my son comes running in. Mom, come out. Well, the skies were complete. There was not a cloud in the sky. And he goes, come out here with me. And all of a sudden, there was just this massive cloud that came over our home, and you could hear a humming. And my son has gifts. That's how I'm going to relate it here. And he goes, look up. And all of a sudden, this one massive cloud, and it looked like it was being controlled by propulsion or some kind of engine. And he said, this is called the Armada. And I go, okay. And it had an insignia in the clouds. Like, it wanted me to know that this is the Armada, whatever the standing of that species was. And my son goes, they have said that they've lost their universal where they lived, and they have come into our solar system. And this massive cloud goes all the way over up to the mountain, because I just live near the mountains, and it came over it, but you could hear the hum. And that was very fascinating. Well, later that night, I was out there because I wanted to, I was on my patio just relaxing. It was a nice warm summer night. And I was looking up, and all of a sudden there was this bright light just flashed above my trees. I've got these huge pine trees. And I look up, and it was like light had come through. And then all of a sudden there was a drone right in front of me. And I went, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And this thing started to float around up in the tree area. And then I noticed that it kind of went really slowly. And to the east of my house, I started to follow it. And I thought, oh, it must be a drone from somewhere else, and the flashing lights, because my brain couldn't handle it just coming in and just flashing up. And as I turned the corner, the sky just opened up and it went right through. And I was sitting there just stunned. And I thought, is this a message? Is this what I saw today with my son? Is that them communicating? You just don't know. So there you go with the phenomena story with the UAP attached to that. So something I'll never forget.
You mentioned drones.
Go ahead.
And you mentioned drones, and in the recent oversight committee hearing just the other day, one of the issues that came up was the fact they had one of these MQ-9 Reaper drones that fired one of the Hellfire missiles at one of these UFOs or UAPs, and the missile actually struck the UFO or UAP, but that object continued on. It didn't destroy it or affect it to the point of causing it to go down or anything like that. It continued on, and I even made a comment that there was some like debris or something that came off of that, but even the debris kept going with the object too. So
that's interesting.
That's one of the things that came out of that hearing. And but when you mentioned drone, I wanted to throw that in there regarding drone activity and stuff. So, but pretty interesting.
Yeah. Drone activity. Well, here's another story. I would talk to the owner of Blind Frog Ranch, and we used to have these really interesting conversations. It got a little intense. We were like sharing some really intense information, and a drone would come over to my house, and it would literally sit there listening to the conversation until I changed the status of what we were talking about. I said, about those Bigfoots? and the drone would go away. Well, that was one of ours. And I am really fascinated that we're probably being listened to as we speak about the phenomena. What is it they want to know? Because the NSA is not too far from where I live. The new NSA that was built here in Utah. So I thought that was very interesting too.
Yeah, the acronym stands for National Security Agency.
Oh, yeah.
Our government is just like everyone else. We got to have acronyms for everything.
3-letter.
Yeah, just like ours, FBI, fry bread inspector.
I like that one. Got to get our t-shirts made. I know that I've seen those t-shirts out there. But I find it really interesting that the subject of UFOs, UAPs, and phenomena are being researched by our U.S. government. Is it them or us? I always ask that question. Is it them or us?
Well, we know that there are organizations that employ contractors, like Skunk Works and Lockheed Martin, and that have been working on all kinds of black budget projects for decades.
Right.
We know that. I mean, John witnessed objects in and before the famous Phoenix lights in '97, and what was witnessed coming out of that. I don't think so. I think it was an otherworldly object or objects, plural, that were seen over several days, in that region. But a lot of times these governments, they'll employ disinformation and things like that to try to stir up, what is the truth? What is behind it? What is factual? And that disinformation, we see that, every day today, especially with AI incorporated with a lot of things. You actually have to have a team of people that go in and discern, was that AI or was that something real? It's just a sign of our times that we live in today.
Well, trying to disseminate information based on experience, you get a little suspect of the areas that we live in, what's nearest. I always look at, okay, I've got Hill Air Force Base, I've got the NSA, I've got drones that fly around with the local police force, monitoring areas, neighborhoods, whatever. And then you have this phenomena, like I was talking about, the trees and the drones that just came out of nowhere. I mean, do we have that capability to imitate too, the phenomena in that way? In my research and my investigations, when I was up in the Uinta Basin, I was told yes to both. It's almost like a blurred line between us having the technology and it being given to us by the ETs. Now, that's a mind-blowing thing to think about. If you think about it, is like, that's why I always ask, is it them or us? Are we that advanced? So any thoughts?
Well, I do think that one concern that does come up is when you have militaries and stuff engaging with these objects, like firing upon them. To me, that's dangerous. In my opinion, it's dangerous because you're engaging with an unknown, you don't know where this thing is from. You don't know what its capabilities are from. I mean, this thing could be 10,000 years in advance of the human race, and you're using technology from 1974 or something to engage these kind of things. I think you're asking for trouble by doing that. I mean, they could unleash something on this planet and we could be annihilated,
Or is us doing that to us?
Yeah.
And maybe the ETs
we've said it so many times. Native American tribes do not trust the U.S. government, and we've got a long history of that.
Yep.
So it wouldn't be the first time the government either lied or made a misleading statement. to us about those things. And the rest of the U.S. is just finding out that, hey, our government actually doesn't exactly tell us the truth. And people are shocked. And we're just sitting there going, yeah, it's been happening to us for hundreds of years, you know.
True.
So, you know, we're already, you know, like, okay, we'll take that with a grain of salt. But everybody else, you know, oh my God, it's just earth shattering. And, you know, we've even seen it with just daily news stories and flipping narratives and, you know, saying, oh, it's the lefts, it's the right, it's this, it's that. There always has to be an enemy. Have you noticed that?
Mm-hmm.
It's not about people. It's let's pick something and let's make it an enemy. Oh, it's drugs coming in. Oh, it's this other thing, you know. It's aliens. They're going to come, you know, every TV show we ever see, the aliens are going to take over. They're going to, you know, enslave us and make us work for them, you know, in slave conditions. It's always something, or it's aliens with a cookbook saying how to serve man, you know. So, yeah, there's always that fear. And, you know, we live in that. Our daily news is full of nothing but fear.
I agree, John. I had a friend, one of my son's friends, and this is really sensitive because the story was told to me years and years and years ago when I started to get into this type of ufology. His father worked for Skunk Works, Lockheed. And when his father had passed on, there were certain plans that this man had kept in his home. And he said as soon as his father died, they came in and they confiscated every record that he had worked for. He was an engineer, a brilliant one, his father, and took everything. But he had sense enough as a kid to hide certain things to keep those records. So that kind of stuff goes on too. At the same time, that distrust, right? Like, what was his father working on? I mean, I do know, but I can't reveal, just to protect him and the story. But that's a very far-fetched story if you really think about it.
And I think those kind of things happen more often than we know. That there are so many things out there where people have been told, keep your mouth shut. Something will happen to you or your family. Here's an NDA, sign this thing, and you can't talk about it for the rest of your life. And people literally go to their deathbeds and make confessions at the end. Jesse Marcel Sr. Confessed on his deathbed. And imagine you're the intelligence officer for the atomic bomb group, and you're being told, tell people that this balsa wood and tinfoil is the UFO that went down. And he did that because he was ordered to.
Yeah.
But you could plainly see on his face, they said that this guy was the best, you know, the best of the best of the best, sir, with honors.
Yeah.
You know, he was the very best, the very top-rated intelligence guy. You had to be to work for the atomic bomb aircraft wing. And that was him. He would have known the difference between a balloon and with a radar receiver on it and a UFO.
Well, that was so true of my family, too. My great-grandfather, I didn't know he was a part of the Atomic Energy Commission until way after my grandmother's death. That was his daughter, and then we got all these records, and it's like, what? And then I found a recording of him and him speaking and saying that he was there until a certain age.
Yeah, and we're good friends with Chuck Wade, whose father owned the Wade Bar that Mac Brazil took pieces of the wreckage to and stopped off and let people handle it.
Right.
And Chuck actually handled the material.
Right.
And said, yeah, you could take it and you could crumble it up into a ball and then it would just open back up again. But you couldn't drill it, you couldn't cut it, you couldn't do anything to it. You couldn't tear it.
Burn it. You couldn't burn it.
You couldn't burn it either. And
did they ever use a heat test where 4,000 and it starts to float?
I don't think they had that capability in a bar. I think you're talking about lighters, old Ronston lighters.
Yeah,
So it depends on how much alcohol was applied.
That's right. That's right.
But Chuck remembered that incident for the rest of his life.
Right.
And that has to be something so amazing that you would remember that from being a little kid handling that material. So,
but why lie about that? Don't lie. Don't make up these stories. I mean, you and I and Stan, we've had these interactions. But at 4,000 degrees, the actual metal on that starts to float. And, I've seen artifacts from the crash. And, it's really interesting how that comes about. People see that you don't make this stuff up. Why would we? Why would those individuals that you're speaking about, why would they make things up?
Our understanding of this material is just starting, really. We don't even know what questions to ask when it comes to a lot of this material. And we just think in terms of what we know already, our current science, and we have to get out of that and go a little further and to figure out some of these things, to know what questions to actually ask.
Or they're still rolling around on wheels, we're still rolling around on wheels. We're not as far advanced as what many people imagine us.
And
we're
just
still
remember,
wars and murder and rape and all of these horrific things. We're still very primitive.
We can't have freedom of speech as well.
Yeah.
What's happening? Yeah.
Just before the Wright brothers in the early 1900s flew in Kitty Hawk.
Yeah.
All the scientists said that man was incapable of flight, that he could not create anything to fly. And that was the general discussion back then. The scientific consensus was that man could not fly. And look at us today, we're going to space every day. We're, with satellites and cargo. We got a space station up there. We got planes going left and right over our heads every single day. And yet, back then they said it's impossible, can't happen. So, we just need to get past what our feeble little minds can think and understand that there's more out there. We just need to know how to ask the questions and how the science is not rigid. It develops all the time, and they're finding new things every day.
Well, it's like we recently had a whistleblower on our show, Dr. Rogers, who saw the plans, 30 years being with NASA as the flight surgeon. The flight medical surgeon, where he saw an actual plans to build a spaceship. So with the U.S. Air Force, and he kept that under his cap for 30 years. And so crazy. Well,
look at, these brilliant visionaries like Tesla. I mean, right. The way their minds operated, is just otherworldly, beyond, the typical things that most men are pondering.
Yeah, and we're talking about Nikola Tesla. We're not
Right.
talking about the pickup truck Tesla.
Elon Musk. I bought
Yeah.
it before he went mad. Yeah, exactly. Gosh, this has been a really cool conversation here today. I've really enjoyed this. I know we're getting close to the hour, but any
Yeah,
thoughts, guys?
Well,
Just thanking you for all the good comments.
In Bino's comment that he had a relative that was working with stuff, and he was able to live a long life and be really healthy. Some people that have encounters with UFOs, they find that their whole lives are changed, that their health has improved. We don't have an answer for that. We don't know why. Some of it, we're starting to understand that if you will it and you believe it, you can fix things in your own body through thought, through frequency, through spelling, in your own life, and make things, manifest things inside yourself to improve your health. We just look at ourselves and think, oh, I got cancer. I can't do anything about it. It's a death sentence. And again, I had a guy tell me, you're never dead. You're never done. There's always one more thing you can do. And, so we have that hope, and we have that skill and that faith in ourselves. So we're never done.
Yeah,
we can manifest a lot of good things.
Yeah, and we're not going to manifest fear, because it seems to be where our Earth's going right now. We've become very violent in our human race. And thank you, guys. It's been a wonderful conversation. And one of these days, I want to have a show that talks about the reasons why it changes people when they have a UFO experience, because the brain actually changes. And I was in a closed door meeting that different things are rewired. So that would be for another show. But thank you, everybody.
That can happen, Michelle, with a lot of different phenomena, having a first-hand experience.
Exactly.
That would be a good show.
Yeah, it would be.
And the adventure continues.
Exactly. Thanks, you guys. Have a great evening. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.